So hello everybody. So in today's episode, this is the outtakes of my Ollama and Open Web install and setup video. And really it's focusing on two troubleshooting sessions where I was doing an install in a previous demo and everything just kind of went off the rails and I was doing investigation and even I still found there's still value in showing an issue being found and how to troubleshoot it and find the answer. And so that's the purpose of this video, is to really showcase how to troubleshoot it. And when you see an issue, to kind of dig deeper and find an answer. The two troubleshooting chapters that we have here is one, I went into it with how to set up a user via Open Web API. And went at it and I completely missed the mark on there. And so I troubleshooted it, and I think I found value in how I kind of deconstructed the API and seeing what's available within the Docker container for Open Web UI. The other is that there are some tools that can be set up, or at least allow certain tools to be accepted within Open Web UI, and it's called workspace.tools. And the goal was to turn that on, because some use cases in home labs will turn that on for extensions for programming into Open Web UI. And so the goal is to turn that on, and to figure out how to turn that on, I had to go into document container, figure out how to turn it on, and then initiate the enablement of that feature. So that being said, let's continue on, and hopefully you get to enjoy the outtakes that and the mistakes I did and you can learn from. Okay, so another thing we need to do here is go to our users settings. And now let's go to our user. Okay, let's go to our victim user. Okay, so what we're trying to do here is we're trying to give users the ability to have tools. So one of the vulnerabilities I found while demoing offline is that if we turn on web space tools and Open Web UI, it's basically a feature that lets users write Python function to the AI so it can be called during the conversation. And you want to make sure that's turned on for our user. So if in this case, our victim user. So right now I'm in our general user base. So let's go to our user role level, and not, this is considered our per user. Let's see if we can go to a different user list. They move the web. Let's see, external to managed. If someone here knows where you can find that on the UI, please note it in the chat below. I'm just stuck right there. So let's actually go onto our jump box via SSH and see if we can turn on the feature of, let's hit the jump box and see if we can just go to via the API, Open Web Server, and just turn on the workspace tools and turn it to true. For the life of me, I can't find it by the UI, but I definitely know I can turn it on via the API. Okay, so let's clear this up. All right, so we're going to be hitting the API of the Open Web Server, and we're going to hit that. We're going to go for the victim user ID, and we're going to turn on tools, or the web space tools. And we're going to turn on by the API, not by the UI, because, again, I don't know where that's at in the UI. Definitely know where it's by the API. All right, here we go. Okay, so we went to the victim, API key. No. Okay, this doesn't really tell us if the tool was turned on. All right, let's check it directly and see if it's even true, set the true. Okay, tools, false. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go straight to the Ollama box. I would assume that the admin token would allow us to turn on the workspace tools on the victim ID. So let's try a different approach. So now we're going to go straight to the SQLite server, or at least the SQLite database inside the Open Web UI. And we're going to see how the permissions are actually stored. This will at least tell us what the field name, format, and current values are. So let's see what we get out of this. Okay, let's just keep on kicking tires. So there's no permission column. Okay. Let's check the schema. All right, so profile. Okay. Good first steps. Still no permission. It has the users, but nothing else. Let's check to see what tables are actually available for us. Let's clear this up. Okay, these are all of our tables. Okay, look at that. All right, these are all our tables in our SQLite database. Okay, let's check the config table. All right, where are you permissions? Okay, so you're probably like me. You see this tool table. What does that what's actually in there? Let's hit that. Okay, so this doesn't give us diddly squat. That's the tool table. This is where the content of the Python code lives. And also user ID lives there, or at least ties it into the account. But it still doesn't give us the permission. Okay, let's clear this. And let's do an execute with the Docker container and see if we can find anything that's hard-coded for permissions. Okay, there it is. There is our user permission right there. Now, let's go and find where user permission is defined and what is the default value. This at least is going to tell me whether we can set it via an environment variable in the compose file or whether there's an API endpoint that we can change that. Oh, here we go. This is where we want to go. Our default user permissions. It's in the config.py right here. Okay, that's right here. Okay, so we know where to start at now. So let's look at it. So let's clear this up so it's easier to read. Okay, now let's see what we can find. Okay, the first two are what's giving me, this is giving us what we want. It's basically an environment variable that defaults to false. We just need to add it to the compose file and restart. Okay, so that's what we need to modify. All right. This is very cool. We're learning. Even if I do demo this before this episode, I will still find new things to learn by. And this one is was a thorn before and is still a thorn. So what we're going to do here is let's look at the Docker. Since we need to modify the Docker Compose file, let's look at what our current Docker Compose file looks like. So there are going to be a few things that we're going to modify in our Open Web UI. We're going to add another environment variable here. And it's going to be called like user permissions workspace.tools. And it's going to be set to true because by default that's turned off. And really that's it. Okay, so let's clear this. And then we're going to update the Docker Compose file. Again, with that user permissions workspace set to true. Okay, now we're going to validate that what we add is now stuck. Okay, there it is. And there's no formatting issues, no additions. Okay, all right. So now we're going to do a force recreate of our Ollama and Open Web UI. And remember, we're keeping the data in the back end, but we're just reloading the front end. Okay, sleep 60 seconds. Okay, so now let's do a Docker PS. Okay, so everything's still good? All right, you know what? I'm going to do another. I should have just done 90 seconds, but we're going to do another 60 just to make sure. Okay, one more time. Docker PS. Okay, so everything looks good here. Okay, so now we're going to test things out. All right, so we're going to go back to our jump box here. And now we're going to confirm that the environment variable is actually stuck. and we're going to try out the victim's workspace and see what we get back, and at least see if it comes back with tools equal true. Permission. Oh, my token expired. Boo. All right, so clear, and we're going to re-authenticate the victim. We're going to get that victim token. And now we have set our victim token as an environment variable. We now know what our new victim token is. All right, so again, let's hit the Ollama box and see if we can see that. Let's see if the tools are set to true. There it is. It is. It was all because of an environment variable in the Docker Compose file. Kind of a loop-de-loo of doing this, but we found that we needed to turn on the workspace tools. We couldn't really do it via the UI, and if there is, maybe it's done on the newer versions. If you know it, tell me in the comments below. We try to do it via a simple curl to the auth API, and we couldn't do it. In the end, we had to dig deep into the Docker container, run some executables, look through how the system's built and how its route is built out, and we learned that it's all in the environment variable. We probably would have done that before if I would have gone out and done the web search on that initially instead of just trying to do it live. I probably would have found that earlier, but in the end, we all learned, and now we know that workspace tools is turned on. It'll help us find more vulnerabilities when we do the prove and break video. So I'm excited. Now that we have validated that our API is turned on, let's create that victim account. And just for your knowledge, I've already created an environment variable prior to this post where I added the admin password. I have obviously added it as an environment variable and not posted it on here because, well, we don't want to post our password to the general public or on YouTube where everyone can take a look at it. Even though after these lessons, this account or this VM will be blown away. So let's test this out. Okay, look at that. So now what we're going to do here is that we're going to extract the token. So let's do that. And we're going to dump it into our admin token right here. Oh, look at that. There's our token. And now we're going to create that victim account. Ooh. Maybe we need to change how. So this right here, let's try to create a user and use this token that we have up here. And let's hit the API. It would be considered an admin API. And let's see if we can create the victim account from there. Am I just hitting the wrong API? You know what? Let's be an auditor and let's go back onto our Ollama VM. Let's see what endpoints there are. This whole command is going to search the open web source code inside the running container for any post route related to user creation. Basically, we're searching what is available. Okay, there it is. This is where we want to inspect the container and see what else. This is the part where we create a user. And this is a create user function, even better. So let's look at that for a little bit. So this command, what it's going to do is going to show us the route above for the create user function, so we know the exact endpoint path to call. We're basically investigating the container and seeing what open APIs are open right now for creating users. So what we're doing here is that we're looking through our container and seeing what open API URLs are open for us to use so that we can create a user. Okay. Oh, SCIM. So that's a enterprise. That's a user provision protocol. Interesting. Okay. So let's look at this. So what we're going to do here. So what this command is going to do is that we're going to list every route in the auths router, which is right here. We're going to list every route known for this router, or auth router, so we can see everything that's currently live. And let's figure out where we can actually create that victim account. Okay, so this is where the sign in is. This is where we want to hit to create that victim account. So let's hit that. Haha, I did this all on the same box. So we want to get, so we now know that yeah, that's probably when I'm trying to do too much. All right, so we now know the API. We want to do this on the jump box, not directly on the box itself. But I did this on, okay, so I did this on my Ollama box, which that's kind of dumb. So let's try this on the jump box. Okay, clear. And now let's try that again. Oh, look at that. Okay, so what we did here, the corrective measure, you don't want to run this command locally on Ollama and Open Web on its VM. You want to do this on a jump box or something not directly onto the actual VM, the actual Ollama VM. This is just we want to do this remotely. So our victim ID is created. We have our role as a user, non-admin, which is good. There's no expires at field, so the token doesn't have an expiration, but again, we have that global setting of 1 hour. So this, which is kind of cool because whereas the admin account has an expires of 1 hour, we just create a user that doesn't have an expire token set. So this is gonna be very interesting down the road when we utilize this victim account. So let's verify that we can actually log in with this victim account. Clear. So now we're just going to load up the token. We're going to basically post and we're going to grab the token and dump it as an environment variable. And then we're going to go see it. Okay, there is our token. So let's clear this now that we know our token. Next thing we want to do is get onto our Ollama box directly. Okay, so what we want to do here is we want to enable direct connection, and let's curl and see, let's do a final validation and see if that direct connection is even turned on. What we're going to do here is that it's going to hit that API endpoint for that direct connection with no credentials. And what we're looking for, if the enable API key is turned on and is auth turned on. So let's see that. And we didn't even authenticate. Look at that, nothing. So let's think about this for a second. So without authenticating, we can pull the open web version. We can see that the API key is turned on, sign up is turned false, and auth is set to true. And we did all this without any credentials. We just learned this by scanning it. So this is very intriguing. So we know the config. So what else is out there? We can validate. Let's see if we can pull the model list from Ollama. Okay, it came back nothing, but that's because there's no models out there. Okay, so let's see if we can pull a new model. Okay, so we're gonna be pulling a tiny llama. I mean, we can pull any model we want, but for this use case and the size of the Intel NUC, we're going to be pulling Tiny Llama for this one. Now that we downloaded the Tiny Llama, let's now pull the tags again and see what models are available. Hopefully it will show, yep, Tiny Llama. So that's good. We didn't have to do anything to authenticate. We just ran some curl commands and it pulled the model that we wanted. Interesting. So for now, we're going to stop. And one of the things we can validate from here is that one of the things we did here is that we spun up Ollama and Open Web. In addition to, we turned on the API to make sure that we can call into Open Web. And then we create a victim account, and then we were able to reference it, grab the token. Then we found out we can scan the config even without authenticating. In addition to, we were able to pull a model without authenticating. So these are very good discoveries. Even though this is a install it and build it episode, we have already found our first vulnerability. One of the mitigating things that we did do is that our token is only good for 1 hour, not forever. For your home lab, you may want to leave it unlimited, but If it's around for any length of time, you may want to consider putting time limits on that token. So I hope you enjoyed these two outtakes that were taken out of the original episode. Keep in mind those outtakes were from a previous demo that I was trying to showcase in my episode that I scrapped and redid. What you see on the Ollama and Open Web episode is my third try on showcasing at least a somewhat clean install. So I hope you found value with this outtake. There were also small troubleshooting sessions, but nothing that I found that would find value for a home lab or for you as an audience. But if you find some usage for this outtake, please let me know and I'll try to provide more moving forward with my episodes. Until then, stay paranoid. I wish you luck and talk to you in the next episode.